Hello people, we are from group 4 and we're going to presenting our thought paper. But before we start, I will introduce ourselves. First, we have Carolina Yurike Aprilia, which is me, and there is also Hananya Suratinoyo, and the last one is Nathania, Rema, Estiningtyas. So let's get started. Okay, so our presentation, we're going to focus on lexical and grammatical meaning. And this presentation title is The Searching of Meaning. This presentation is about the difference between lexical and grammatical meaning, the challenge that appears during our finding, and the application in our daily life. So generally speaking, this presentation consists of opening, content, and the closing. So before we're going to talking about this topic more deeply, I will give you a brief explanation about our topic. So in a sentence or in a language, it has a meaning, and when we break down or we inject this sentence or language, it's actually consists of smaller parts that join together and create a meaning. For example, in a sentence, a dog bark. There is part A. It consists of a dog and bark. The word dog, when we listen or we hear this word, we know that it refers to an animal. But how about the other morpheme or another part? For example, the morpheme a. It doesn't have meaning. But it has another function to show that the dog or the subject is only one. So, the word that can stand together, the word dog here is the lexical meaning, and the other morpheme or the other part like a, it's a grammatical meaning because it couldn't stand alone, but it has a function to facilitate the language. As we have understood about lexical and grammatical meaning briefly, we know that these two are inseparable, okay? It is like a jam and bread. It couldn't be separable. And it also, Paul has mentioned this also on 1 Corinthians 12, verse 12. Just as a body, though one has many parts, but all its many parts form one body. So it is with Christ. Same like a sentence or a meaningful language. When we inject it consists of smaller parts that join together and create a meaningful meaning.
Now we are going into the content. So first of all, we will talk about the difference between animal communication and human communication. For years, in linguistics, experts have been doing research to distinguish the difference between the animal communication and human communication. And one contrast between both is the meaning behind the communication. Animals communicate by symbols, sonar, visual, smells, but there is no exact meaning behind it. But humans, in contrast, they communicate using language, and that language using words, and for each word has meaning behind it. So because animals don't have exact meaning in their communication, sometimes or usually there will be a misperception when they are communicating one each other. And people, every day we are talking something, we use language to communicate our opinion. And one thing that always consider is in communications is to express the meaning in language, use word or using words. So we can say that the important part of communication or human communication is not only the word itself, but it's also the meaning behind the word. The same like Cradler said, meaning is defined as a bond between object and word. And now we're going to the theory. It's from Chomsky. So Chomskyan theory, it's talk about the features to distinguish the meaning in a word. So Boy and Bastian say that Chomsky put much of the effort to understand what language it has been focused on these two features, grammar and its contrast with the lexicon. So from here, we know that there are two kinds of features to identify the meaning of a word, that is the lexicon and grammar. So after this, the lexicon, we call it as lexical meaning and grammar as the grammatical meaning. Now we will talk about the difference, or we will versus the lexical meaning and grammatical meaning. First is the lexical meaning. So lexical meaning is meaning that hangs on the lexicon. So like Cradler said that all lexemes of a language constitute the lexicon of the language, and all the lexemes that you know make up your personal lexicon. So lexical meaning defined as meaning that represents an item. For example, nouns, adjectives, verbs, and it doesn't have procedures for constructing the word. So there is no rules for constructing the lexical word. Contrasting with it, grammatical meaning constructed by grammatical items. So the grammatical item itself are the affixes, articles, and auxiliaries. The same like Boy and Bastian said that grammatical items are affixes, articles, and auxiliaries. And for the formation rules, they are phrases and clauses. So the function of a grammatical item itself is to make words could have their own meaning, but at the same time, they also have shared meaning. And Putra also in 2018, he stated that grammatical cohesion refers to the various grammatical devices that can be used to make relation among sentences more explicitly. So it makes the words or the meaning clearer.
Okay, so now we are going to see the example for the lexical and grammatical. From the explanation before, we know that lexical items are noun, adjective, and verb. So look at this example. From the first, we have noun, consists of student, teacher, parent, lesson, and examination. For the adjective one, we have long, short, fast, smart, and creative. And the verb, we have learn, teach, listen, revise, and try. On the other side, we know that grammatical meaning items are affixes, articles, and auxiliaries. And the examples of grammatical are affixes. We have happy, to be unhappy, agree, to be disagree, learn, to be learned, are learning. From the article, we have unable, a hope, the love. From the auxiliaries, we have I'm done with this. I want to be your friend. I have tried my best. So the and, this, ed, ing, and, a, the, done, be, and have, we can categorize it to be grammatical. So, to distinguish both clearer, these examples could help us. So, they are examples of position, plurality, and directivity. The first one, we have Miss Chania's online class. It is show grammatically expressed position. And then Miss Chania has an online class. It expressed lexically expressed position. From the second one, we have responsibilities. It is grammatically expressed plurality. And more than one responsibility, it is lexically expressed plurality. And the third one, we have get out. It is grammatically expressed directivity. And the last one, I ask you to leave this room. It is lexically expressed directivity. So from these examples, we could see that talking about two things, those are vocabularies and grammar. Lexical meaning requires us to have as many as possible vocabulary, and grammatical meaning requires us to comprehend the sequence of the items of English grammar.
Now we're going to talking about the challenge and solution that appear during our finding, which is complexity of lexical meaning. For example, the words go, went, going, gone, as you can see, basically have four forms and meaning. But if you insect very carefully, it shares one meaning. In order to avoid this kind of complexity problem, there was a person named Listen proposed the term lexeme. So for example, the words go, when, going, gone, for convenience, that four forms mentioned above were designed as one lexeme, which is go. Another example that complexity of lexical appears in phrasing words. The word put up with is a combination of put, up, and with, but its meaning does not represent each element or combination, but it is a one word with one meaning, which is endure or tolerate. Now, as we have understood about lexical and grammatical meaning itself, what is the implication in our daily life? For us, the student teacher, there's an undoubtedly question, which one is more important? Advancing vocabulary, which is more related to lexical, or teaching grammar? As we have understood that these two are inseparable, it is like bread and jam, which is complete one each other. So we know that these two are important. And as a future teacher or student teacher, we need to teach this in balance. Because according to research by Jaramillo and Mediana, what we receive influence our production skill, which are writing and speaking. And the skills are important to convince others as well as to express our feelings and thoughts.
Okay, when we talk about the implication for the daily life for general, we can conclude that when we communicate in our daily life, we cannot use lexical only or grammatical only. We need to use both of lexical and grammatical when we talk with someone so that our communication will have a clear meaning. Using both lexical and grammatical will make our sentences that we speak to other people be more understandable, and it makes it easier to ask or to talk with other people.
Now we will talk about the implication for the English learner. So as an English learner, we must comprehend this phenomenon as an important. Why? Because indeed, English requires the learner to have a sufficient vocabulary bank to comprehend the lexical meaning and to support the four skills, which are the reading, writing, listening, and speaking. But grammar also important because sufficient vocabulary bank is not enough. So good grammar is important for arranging the vocabulary correctly according to the rules and procedures of English language. So if we lack of one of them, there will be a problem. It happens as well to the case when the learners are learning grammar but lack of vocabulary, they will struggle in applying the four skills. For example, in the speaking skills, they tend to use the same words and they will have difficulties communicating in English. They will understand the context based on the grammatical meaning, but they don't understand the meaning based on the lexical meaning of each word. Furthermore, at the end, their speaking ability will be stuck at the same level or even decrease. It is the same as what D.A. Wilkins stated. He stated that there is not much value in being able to produce grammatical sentence if one has not got the vocabulary that is needed to convey what one wishes to say. While without grammar, very little can be conveyed. Without vocabulary, nothing can be conveyed.
Okay, so from this presentation, we can conclude that in the communication and process between one person and another, there is always meaning in it. Clear goals and meanings in communicating with others can make our communication easier and more efficient. In this communication, there are two things that make communication meaningful. These are lexical and grammatical. So in our life as a student, especially for a student teacher, we must be able to understand lexical and grammatical well and deeply because we will teach this thing to our students later on. We cannot teach about lexical only or grammatical only, but we must teach both of them because lexical and grammatical need one each other and cannot be separated. Then in our daily life, we need to use lexical and grammatical so that when we talk to other people, we can ask for or talk clearly and it becomes easier. Okay everyone, that's all for our presentation about lexical and grammatical. We hope that through this presentation we can know and learn a lot about lexical and grammatical. So thank you for watching our presentation today and we apologize if there are any mistakes in our presentation. Have a good day everyone. God bless